Hello everybody, it's Dave Neal. I've got a special extra bonus video for you on this Tuesday, so if you enjoy the extra content, speak with your finger and hit the subscriber button and the like button an odd number of times. I've got a couple thoughts that I wanted to share with you guys following an interview I did with some really cool lawyers. I did the Albertson and Davidson show, and we streamed it yesterday afternoon. Look at that, almost 50,000 views. And every once in a while, I will peruse the comment section, not fishing for pain or compliments, maybe a little pat on the back, but, just to take the temperature in the room. When you do someone else's show, you get exposed to new audiences. And very specifically with the conversation of Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, we discussed several different things that I knew would give people strong opinions, as it were. So every comment I'm about to share with you, I'm going to share my response to. They're all well thought out. It's not to bash anybody. It's just, rather than respond in the comment section, I can respond to 50,000 people or 100,000 right now. So this is in response to how Blake Lively may wiggle herself out of this mess. That being the hundreds of $millions of lawsuits that they are currently entangled in. When I interviewed Albertson and Davidson on my show this morning, I asked them some dumb questions like, why is Blake the plaintiff? And they said, well, it's basically because she filed first, but they're both fighting for something. They're both plaintiffs in a way. They both have to defend themselves in a way. So, I'm not legally educated, just by the school of hard knocks. You get sued, you learn a little bit about stuff. But I wanted to share with you some of these comments. Again, if you haven't checked it out, it's a great way to promote their channel. They're, oh boy, so close to 10,000 subscribers. Why don't we go knock them over to 10,000 right now? What are they, 170 away? Let's go do that. I said, thanks for having me. Does this make me an honorary partner? They said, yes. Your new title at our firm, comedian at law. So there it is, Albertson and Davidson and Neal, just on an honorary way. So we talked about one of the ways Blake might wiggle out of this. And I've been discussing this for a long time. The idea of postpartum anxiety or the idea of being overwhelmed from your pregnancy. Let me tell you this. A lot of people get really upset when you have this conversation. I might remind people what grace means. You might believe in a religion or not, but grace is something that would really benefit everybody to have more of. It's free, it doesn't hurt, and it'll make you feel healthier. Grace is defined as undeserved favor, mercy, and compassion. So how can we look at this Baldoni Lively case and try to have compassion for somebody who might be considered a monster, like Ryan Reynolds or Blake Lively? Now, people will argue, and I'll respond, Dave, you're giving her too much credit, blah, 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 blah. Well, I already possess that grace and empathy for Baldoni's side and his wife and their children and everyone involved. I already know deep down in my core, he seems like a good guy. We've studied the Baha'i faith. We've done literally on a very elementary level, but we've literally done everything we can to try to put ourselves in both of their positions. So much so, we'll discuss Jenny Slate. I tell you what, I'll read all of the comments and then I'll just give you my thoughts. Again, it is of no place of anger, defensiveness, just another way to crank out a video for you and I to enjoy, hopefully. By Millie said, I love Dave. Thank you. He has a good heart. Appreciate it. But I had to stop listening to this video when he was asked to give Blake advice on how to get out of the situation. Okay, men, in case you don't know, please don't advise Blake to use her post-pregnancy and hormones as an excuse. Question, what is going to get Blake out of this? Answer, effing nothing. Her career is done. When you are so evil that you try to steal someone else's work, try to erase that person from the project, extort them, vilify and smear them, and then legally persecute them for the sake of making more money on top of the hundreds of millions that you and your greedy husband already have, nothing is going to wash this away. Her career is unsalvageable, and that's the only thing that is making this woman not back down from her false allegations. Blake passed the point of no return a freaking long time ago. For the scandal to go away, she needs to issue a public apology to Justin and write a check with so many zeros that her wrist develops carpal tunnel, then quietly go away. If she's such a good writer and business mogul, doubtful, then maybe she can write under a pseudonym or invest in Ryan's companies. I tell you what, bye Millie. I like this comment. I like the wording. I like the visuals. I like the random capitalizing of sentences. It's a good comment, and it doesn't bash me. She opens it by saying something nice about me. If you're going to critique me, this is the best way to do it. Now, Does it have grace that I'm speaking about? No. It's very much, and we're going to get this. An audience full of women are going to go, Dave, what the hell do you know about postpartum issues? Not much. But I do have family members that have had postpartum psychosis. And we have seen in the news situations of postpartum psychosis that are devastating. And you might say, well, Dave, but she had a baby a couple of years ago, and now she shouldn't be acting that way. And how about how she acted before the baby? Look, I understand. I'm just saying, if you're Blake Lively and you're looking for a way to apologize and think about how you might have done this, the idea, the Greek mythology, the idea of flying too close to the sun, you got the wax wings, and if you get too close to the sun, they get warm and they melt. And it's that idea of greed and ego. And when you look at this, the decisions Blake might have made during the, shutdown for the writer's strike, those decisions she's possibly trying to back up right now. It doesn't make it good or right, but if she is a narcissist, if she did struggle after her pregnancy about doing scenes that involved limited clothing and birthing and all those things, I'm not saying I can relate to her, but I've been on a set. I've been nervous as hell. In fact, I've had to learn about myself as a stand-up comedian that sometimes I'll pick fights with my wife the day I have an important show. And why would I do that? Well, because sometimes when you're anxious, you do things you wouldn't normally do. Our friend Dr. Diane Strakowski says we're all like tea. We don't know our flavor until we're dropped in hot water. And this coming back from a pregnancy, this feeling like you, and again, coupled by a lot of things, her own issues, her own narcissism, her own all these things, but these separate issues combined with a director who you think you're better than. Ever take advice? You ever have a boss that's younger than you? And you ever go, I should be farther along in my career. I should be this, I should be that. You act like an asshole. When in fact, it wasn't her film to direct or any of these things, but she felt like she knew more, and Ryan, could say the same thing. So again, it's not whether or not she's right. And I'll make a video every day for the rest of my life to articulate my point. It's not whether or not someone's right. It's analyzing why what happened. And for some people, God bless you, they'd rather turn off a very good conversation, by the way. My conversation with those lawyers, I think we were sharp. I think we brought it. But they'd rather turn it off than maybe analyze a little bit further. I've got all the time in the world. I don't know if you know this about me. I made 6 videos yesterday. YouTube lets me make unlimited videos. I'm the Oprah Winfrey of videos. They're all under your chair. Take a look. There they are. You all get them. Emma said, Dave, why are you, and this is more about Jenny Slate, why are you mudding this up more? Jenny Slate was unhappy with the apartment she rented in New York, wanted to move, but would lose her deposit on that flat. Jamie Heath, then said Wayfair or he would cover her loss, and she didn't like the wording of his offer. I agree with all of that. Everyone keeps misrepresenting that and changing the story. Quote, the house they put her in, where do you take that from? Approved? As if she applied for it? Was the deal ever even made? Do we know the facts at all? No, we don't. But I have worked in the industry for a long time, and my guess is Jenny Slate worked with her agent or an assistant or somebody, and they worked with the producers to get her a place. Rather than put her up in a Hyatt, you want to make people feel at home. So if she's a Los Angeles-based actor and you're filming for 3 weeks, you'll give them a place in Tribeca for a month, and they might say, can I have a kitchen and a little backyard and X, Y, and Z? And you try your best. And then she shows up and goes, oh, geez, I don't really like this. This isn't it. This is weird. It's unsafe for my kid. Oh, yeah, cool. We'll get you another one. So the idea that the house they put her in, yeah, I do believe they set that up for her in one way or another, and maybe she paid for it, but they were going to reimburse it. We've all worked in a job, right, where they reimbursed your things, and she's like, I got to get out of that, but I can't because of the deposit. Can we work on this? Again, we don't have the facts. We're just bringing to the unknown the higher probability of what went down. Dave is great, but gives Blake too much grace. And by the way, this is the comment that made me want to respond, not because I'm defensive or angry, just because this is good stuff. Dave is great, but gives Blake too much grace. And by the way, I don't think in the definition of grace, there's too much. Either you have it or you don't. It's a gift that can't be earned or deserved. Grace is a theme that appears. Okay, so you get all of that. I don't know if there's a level of grace you can give. Now, I understand. You give grace to somebody until they keep on burning your bridges, they walk all over you, and then I get it. But initially speaking, a third party, I'm not involved with these jabronis. I'm not brokering a deal with Blake Lively. I can just say, dang, sucks. And to be honest, I feel this way about people that inherited large amounts of money from their parents and never had to struggle and then never know the value of living your dreams because you had these golden handcuffs. I feel the same way, and I grew up relatively lower middle class. I would never want to give my son a green light to do anything he wanted without working damn hard for it, because struggle is the reason we are here on earth. And that is something that I think provides us, when we get over those hurdles, the dopamine to have achieved that rocky moment. We don't get that rocky moment if you carry us to the top of the stairs. You got to run to the top. And Blake Lively might have been dropped off at the top of the stairs, and she might suffer from the entitlement some Nepo people suffer, where they don't really feel like they earned where they're at, and so they're not really proud of it. And that exists too. That happens. I don't think Justin Baldoni suffers from that. Let's continue. Good stuff. I give him too much grace. I don't think she should ever be allowed to do that to anyone else ever again. She has real issues. Even if she somehow gets off the hook this time, she will do it again to someone else. Well, respectfully, having grace doesn't mean there aren't consequences. It's just being like, whew, boy, gosh, their life sucks. It doesn't mean you don't have consequences. I don't say, all right, well, you want to rob me, I'll have grace, take my money. No, that's not what it is at all. So I kind of feel like it's mischaracterizing of my points. Someone said most abusers don't change. The fact he feels sorry for her coming back to work after having a baby is crazy. It was her choice. It's not like she needed the money. Blake was well aware there were sex scenes involved, and Justin was so kind to her in the text messages when she was expressing her concerns about her postpartum body. Yes, Justin was good. Again, going back to the grace. For someone to think it's wild that you feel that it's tough for someone to go back to work, it's very complicated, right? Blake doesn't need the money, and we're going to address this several times from people. It's not about needing the money. It's about whatever expectation she has that she needs to go work while she's still in her 30s, and her husband's doing these huge roles, and she needs to take this, and she probably looks on the calendar and goes, I really want to take this role, but it films 4 weeks after I have a baby. Can I make it happen? And that type of personality says, I'm going to make it happen. Maybe she's a high-achieving personality type because she wasn't loved enough or hugged enough by her parents growing up. I don't know. But and again, I think it's a personality type that maybe I won't change anybody's minds with this. I'm not coming from a place of moral superiority. If it's true that she commandeered this film from Justin, and signs point that way, if it's true that she made up the harassment claims, then that is so terrible of her. But we're going to keep talking about it. Someone say, I sadly agree. I say sadly because the first video I saw of Dave's, felt very independent in his commentary. But then I'm seeing he takes too many opportunities for creative license or giving the benefit of the doubt. By the way, opportunities for creative license, just so people know, I make content where I give my opinions. My whole channel is essentially creative license. But I take too many opportunities for creative license or giving the benefit of the doubt, and I think it ties to his politics more than it should. Each story should stand on its own. Agreed there. The fact he proudly notes his involvement with one party or another shows he's no better than the pundits who are brainwashed and can't see beyond the paradigm of their group, regardless of any evidence to the contrary. This is interesting, and the fact they got 7 upvotes is, very disheartening to me, because I don't think I'm registered Democrat. I'm a progressive person who wants to fight the tax codes that are making the billionaires richer and the middle class poor. If you want to attribute that to a party because I think people should have health care and we shouldn't have 60,000 people a year that die because they don't have adequate health care, for completely preventable reasons, I think we should have a much more robust maternity program, a program where you're able to not have to go back to work right away. That doesn't have to deal with Blake Lively, but that's what I believe in. And I do give my political opinions because, like I said, I am a commentary channel, and I stand by every opinion that I have until I decide to change my opinion. I'm not bought or sold by anybody, but I do find that interesting because I've been adamant to say, let's not compare this to Johnny Depp, Amber Heard. Now, I will say in very specific cases, well, there is a time where this was similar, where Amber lied about the ACLU and Blake might have lied about the text message exchange and all of that. So I will share specific comparisons, but I do want this to stand on its own, to the point where it's not a, well, we shouldn't believe women or we shouldn't do this. It's like, no, let's just analyze this as it is. So I don't know if there's anybody out there, and I will pat myself on the back, who has analyzed this razor sharp and not try to join one side versus the other. There are moments where Blake has a point where you go, all right, well, if he is barging into her and then the evidence doesn't follow and we say, okay, well, then let's look at it from this angle. So don't hold that against me, folks. Susan said, I get that. And I respond, yeah, but I've been harassed in the past, so I'm covering all my bases. And that was because, and this is what was tough. In this video, I explained, guys, you don't get it. If you just go on one side and don't try your best to be as neutral as possible, I've been put on lists where people have had CPS, that's Child Protective Services, called on them. I've been put on lists where people have had SWAT teams called on them, and people get murdered when swatting happens. I've made sure every time I speak to a cop in my hometown, I let them know who I am and where I live, because I've had somebody who's been calling the FBI on me. So fucking forgive me if there are times in which I might not want to be completely on one side for the reasons of, let's just see how this all shakes out. Okay. And I understand, people can comment whatever they want, but get on FaceTime and stand by those opinions. And then you'll be put on those lists too. And now that doesn't mean my opinion is hijacked by one side versus the other. It just means I have seen what happens when people want to think you're on one team versus the other. That's for the comment sections, not for me. Someone said, I think you're covering it perfectly and in the right way. We shouldn't dogpile without evidence, and I think you provide the evidence well and remain impartial. And again, thank you so much. I will share my opinions, but I will make sure I play devil's advocate and look at whatever arguments Blake Lively's side might have. Maureen said, good point on pregnancy and going back to work. So why did she? After 4 kiddos and all, why did she go back to work? She does not need the money, so poor excuse she makes for her behavior or anyone giving her a pass. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I can imagine it's very competitive to get lead roles as a female that are good acting, challenging, good script. I mean, I know people say, oh, the movie sucked. I thought it was a good movie. It made $250 million. Very successful movie. And, when you're younger, in your 20s, as a female, you get a lot more roles that are gratuitous, pretty girl, guy gets all the fun acting chops. I mean, it's very standard. So maybe she's like, dang, I can't pass this up. I just had 4 kids. I haven't had a good role in 8 years. I'm turning 40. I have no idea. I have no idea what made her decide she wanted to do it. Could be a competitiveness. It could be any number of things. But that doesn't mean just because she decided to do the movie that there isn't struggle. My first and only corporate job out of college, I was trained by someone who just got back from maternity leave. And I would see her crying in her office and trying to hide it. And she would come out with red eyes. And I developed so much empathy for her situation, where she was forced to come back to work because there was money on the line. And then I think within 2 weeks of coming back to work, she finally quit her job and said, I can't do it. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I work from home. I cannot imagine with a 9-month-old, my wife being ready to go back to work, let alone a 4-week-old. When we were in our orientation for giving birth, at the hospital, the number one question people were asking is, will I be allowed to, will my insurance cover an epidural if I'm at a network? Bullshit questions like that. The other number one question was, when can I start pumping so I can start building a stockpile of my milk so I can go back to work? It is horrifying. Now, if you want to go back to work, fine, but it is horrifying to think of a mom who's at a job she doesn't want to be at, because in what is one of the richest countries in the world, we've decided to prioritize billionaires, letting them off with lower taxes for corporations, all of that, not taxing people their fair share, subsidizing big pharma, health insurance industries that take more money for the middleman that don't need to exist. We prioritize that, and then, I hate to say it, maybe I will run for office someday. And damn right, it'll be on a platform that moms get a hell of a lot of time off after having a baby. And you might argue, Dave, companies can't afford that. Trust me, the money's there. Corporations and jobs dangle health insurance over our heads. They dangle job security over our heads and keep us just close enough to them, tethered to the job, so that we won't kind of go off and do our own thing. Now, I pay $1,400 a month for health insurance. My channel's crushing it. That's for my wife, baby. We had a baby. We still don't know how much it cost because we got so many different bills in so many different directions. What was supposed to be covered by the for the epidural wasn't, and whatnot. I mean, it's a goddamn tragedy what exists in the United States of America. If you don't live in our country, it's hard to explain. And I'm not saying Canada hasn't figured it out or the UK hasn't figured it out. All I'm saying is per capita, we spend more money and get less than any other first world country. And we live in a world where, the maternity rate, the survival rate for giving birth for Black women is fucking abysmal. It's fucking abysmal. And it should be looked at and studied because it's an absolute crime what we're doing to mothers out there. Now, Blake Lively might not be in that financial situation that I speak of, but it doesn't change my opinion that, boy, it would be nice if we could get to a place in society where we took more of an Eastern approach and said, hey, look, let's not prioritize going running that 5K a week after you have a baby. Go in there and heal your body and bond with your baby. And hopefully the husband can too. It's not just maternity leave, but paternity leave as well. Maybe it's a split hybrid where you're a guy like me who gets to work in the other room. And if I hear my wife having a tough day or my baby crying, I can stop what I'm doing and go help out. That's the society that we deserve and have earned that we don't have. So I can't explain to anybody why Blake's situation is what Blake's situation is or what she's been through. But God damn it, if I'm not going to try to at least use an evolved mind to look at it from all different angles. We know Justin Baldoni's gone through hell and back. We know Emily Baldoni's gone through hell and back. We know he's going to fight. But to think that a settlement's not going to happen, these smart lawyers say 99% it's going to settle. That doesn't mean Justin Baldoni just kicks rocks and goes away. It means, he gets a lot of money. She publicly apologizes and all that. Someone said, a big supporter of maternity leave? Dave, Blake Lively is a millionaire. Again, that's not the point. She isn't having to choose between feeding her kids and having to have an amazing postpartum body. Sheesh. Can we stop acting like these people live the same lives as us? Because they absolutely don't. I don't any job where my husband, I could talk to my boss about rearranging the schedule so we can be together. I also don't know of any real job where I could basically try to co-opt my boss's role and then denigrate him. I agree. That's a false comparison. So I think everyone should strive to get enough equity in their life where they can have the conversation of trying to work their schedule around. I mean, imagine if you're such a good lawyer at a law firm, they don't want to lose you. They'll work around your schedule. If you're the best surgeon in the world, but you want to take 9 weeks of vacation off, but they don't want to lose you, they'll figure it out. They will, or else you'll walk and someone else can have you. So pursue a job in a lifestyle where you have enough equity that you can make those decisions. Now, don't use them in a way to hijack a film, but I have no problem with Ryan Reynolds saying, hey, if you could switch those around for us, that would be amazing. Because why wouldn't you want to please Ryan Reynolds? The guy helps run stuff if you can. I'm sure they did try to move things around and they say, hey, there's only one day in the world. We tried everything. We can't get out of this one scene, so we can't move everything. Okay, fine. But if you can help people out, then you do that because in return, they'll offer you a favor. That's how the world works. Do you actually think narcissists apologize? I don't know. She's never going to apologize. She is super evil. Took me a week to see the pattern of behavior as a narcissist in her. Blake is not a victim in all of this, but she keeps trying. Someone said, I agree. All the comments on different videos saying she needs to publicly apologize don't get that anything being put out as an apology would not be sincere. It would merely be a PR move. I wouldn't want or accept an apology from someone knowing that it's not heartfelt. Reynolds is pathological too. There will be no apology from them. The cast haven't apologized either. They thought they'd run off with Blake and star in the sequel. I don't blame the cast for anything because God knows what they were told. When it comes to an apology, I personally wouldn't care if it's sincere or not. The apology is so that the public knows the other person's vindicated. That's what the apology is for. As the lawyers have said, they think she's going to settle, apologize, and pay $50 to $150 million. So it's not like the apology wouldn't come with nothing. Now, they could be wrong, but they did offer the dates. I think on my channel, on my video, they offered when somebody said they think she'll apologize and settle right before Christmas. Once it's September, I said 4th of July. So it looks like that's all I've got there, but you guys can go check all of that out. My conversation with Albertson and Davidson and Neil. attorneys at law. Here we are. I got the gavel. Does that help? Does this help with anything? So anyway, my guess is I probably didn't change many opinions, but I do like to correct people when they say things like, well, Blake's rich. She doesn't need to go back to work. And you go, well, money doesn't solve the soul and the way we interact. And people saying, oh, she doesn't have the same set of problems we have. No, she doesn't. But what I've learned is whether you're poor or rich or somewhere in between, you're going to struggle throughout life. And whatever problems she has, maybe from, being given a career and not really valuing it to spending 20 years in Hollywood where you're objectified with your body and now you don't have the same body that you used to, so you question whatever. Whatever her issues may be, they're not mine. I have a different set of issues. And you in the comment section have a different set of issues. You can decide to have grace or not. But while I have your attention, I always mention Albert Einstein. And when he was asked what the most influential quote is in his life, he didn't say anything about quantum physics or, some gravitational E equals MC squared. No, he said, you need to decide, do you live in a friendly world or an unfriendly world? My world that I live in is that most people aren't absolute psychopathic, evil people. Now, could she be? Yeah, sure. Are people with narcissism attracted to, gigs like celebrity culture? Yeah, absolutely. And it could also be true that a chain of events leading from her not being happy with herself, because as we see with, people that flip out at Starbucks baristas or people that get in road rage, their anger emanates from their soul. So whatever Blake is dealing with on the outside, it must suck to be her on the inside. And that, my friends, is called having a little empathy for someone else and their problems. Now, we'll have to see how it all plays out. I'm probably not going to read the comment sections of this video because I made every point I want to make, which is, let's try to get healthcare for all. Okay. But for all of those that don't like my opinions, I am not puppeted by anybody. I share what I feel based on my life experiences from my heart of hearts, and my kindness will not be misconstrued as weakness, just like Justin's, as we've learned, won't be either. All right, folks, have a good one. Appreciate the chat.